What's going on, everyone? Welcome to 3D Rivals, and this is episode number 1 of DJ Reviews. Now, I just recently came from seeing the Captain Marvel movie in theaters, and I'm going to do a little review. It's just me, DJ, of course, from 3D Rivals. I'll do a review. I'll try to keep spoilers out for the most part, and then if there is going to be a spoilers, I'll make sure that I let you guys know. And of course, we'll do a full review with Derek and D, of course, when our full 3D Rivals episode comes out. But I just want to let you guys know my thoughts and feelings on the movie. So first, let's start. I'll give my overall kind of rating of the movie. And right now, I'm sitting at maybe 6.7 to 7 out of 10. Somewhere around there. Among the Marvel movies, I'm kind of debating whether or not it's better than the Ant-Man movies or just below the Ant-Man movies. I haven't decided that, but it's kind of around there. So that's kind of where I put it. If you go back to our Ranking the Marvel movie episodes, you'll know where that is on the list. I actually don't remember. But if you have a feeling about the Ant-Man movies, then you can probably have an idea of how I think about this one. Now, that being said, I think the movie was okay to good. It was definitely an enjoyable time at the theater. I will say that I did like the movie. So I think what I'm going to do first is kind of go over the things I really liked about the movie, and then we can talk about the things that I thought were kind of some of the flaws in the movie, and then kind of that'll give you an idea of where I came up with my ranking for it. So first, what I liked about the movie, one, I have to say Brie Larson, I think in the role, it did a lot better than what a lot of people thought she would. I know in the trailers, she seemed a little bland, and she definitely had more personality in the movie than what was shown in the trailers. And I actually like her personality, but we'll get more on that a little bit later, because there's some things that happen later on that I think maybe could have been done better. Also, the humor in the movie, it's a Marvel movie. Of course, we all know Marvel movies tend to be funny, and this one did not disappoint. There was definitely a lot of humor. Samuel L. Jackson, excellent in the movie. And, you know, those early reviews that said the cat steals the show, well, definitely Goose the Cat was a good part of this movie, I have to say. It was actually very entertaining in that aspect. Soundtrack, there were a lot of good songs in the movie. I think that was well implemented, enjoyable. So that I really liked as well. Cinematography, you do get to see a bit of the Kree homeworld. I thought that looked cool. It was done very well. A lot of colors in this movie, I would say, because Captain Marvel's power. So, you know, you do get, you know, a color set. That was pretty good. Storytelling, I think the writing for the movie itself was very good, and I'm going to tell you why I'm quantifying that a little bit later. But the writing for the movie, I'm going to say, was very good. There were some twists and turns in there that, well, let me not call it twists and turns. Let me just say there's some things in the movie that goes different ways than what we all expected. Especially by the end of the movie, it's definitely a lot different than what everybody expected it to be. So I think that is pretty good on the writer's part. There were some differences that nobody guessed, which, of course, Marvel does a good job at that. So that was pretty good. Let's see. Ben Mendelsohn as Talos in the movie, excellent. Ben Mendelsohn did a great job. I'll have to say, for one, the scrolls in the movie was very good. I think all the actors, Jude Law, Gemma Chan, excellent. Everybody did a good job. It was good to see some of those old characters come back, and there were smaller roles, but it was good to see them and how they were acting in the past. That was pretty cool. The pacing of the movie, for the most part, was good. I think it did lag a little bit in the middle of the movie. There were some parts of it that I thought kind of lagged, but I think it moved at a quick pace for the most part. I'm saying a lot. I'm sorry, but this isn't scripted or anything. This is definitely right after I came from the theater, so I'm kind of thinking of all this on the fly to review this movie. So it's just like the thoughts off the top of my head. So yeah, cinematography was good. The score is kind of forgettable. I'm gonna put I don't remember kind of what the score. I just came from the movie and I don't remember what the score is for Captain Marvel. So I don't think they made a really catchy score for that. That probably could have been better. But yeah, everything else was pretty decent. I don't know if there's anything else to say without spoiling things, like without going through the movie beat by beat, you know. But if you enjoy a lot of the humor, this would be good. It's definitely I would say sort of an empowering movie. You know, Brie Larson and Marvel both said we're saying that this was empowering for women and things like that, and of course, we're everybody that wants to be a hero. I guess at the end of the movie for humans in general. But yeah, so it definitely had those beats in it. But some of the things that I didn't really like about the movie, or I wouldn't say they were big flaws, but some of the parts that I thought kind of weighted down were, let's see, I talked about some of the pacing through the middle of the movie. It kind of moved a little slow at some parts. I feel like I left this movie, and you know, after it's only been like an hour since I've seen it, but after the hour, I don't have, you know, like at the end of the other Marvel movies, like you had a kind of a connection with Iron Man, and you cared about Iron Man, your connection with Thor, you cared about Thor. I don't feel like that connection was built between the audience and Captain Marvel in this. And I think that was kind of a writing issue. I don't think that's the way Brie Larson acted it. Because you can tell that she brought the charisma at certain points in the movie. But then by the end, when she really was ramping up her powers, it kind of seemed like a lot of her personality was kind of leaving and she started to be bland. And that's some of the parts we saw in the trailer. And I think that's kind of a writing issue there. She's definitely powerful. I will give that to Marvel, but I don't think there's going to be any type of, like, her overpowering Thanos or anything like that in the Endgame movie. It doesn't seem to be the case. But she's definitely powerful in that respect. So I would say that, what were some of the other things? Yeah, I think it was, I feel like this movie's going to be compared a lot to Wonder Woman, since Wonder Woman was DC's first female-led film, and this is Marvel's first female-led film. And if I were to compare the two, I would have to say that I like Wonder Woman better. Well, you know how I always say, the first 3/4 of Wonder Woman I like better than this movie. I feel like it, like I was mentioning earlier, you left the theater with more of an understanding of Wonder Woman and caring for what she did. And a lot of Wonder Woman's fights, I felt more earned, and you felt her being empowered in that respect. Like when Wonder Woman stepped out into the battlefield for the first time, that was an awesome moment. And I don't think we got a moment like that in this movie. I know that there were, I think I can think of a particular scene where I think they were aiming for that. It just didn't really hit home for me there in that respect. So it just didn't have that feeling in it. It's like it's missing just a little bit for me to care more about the character, which maybe we'll get in Endgame. We'll see. The Russo brothers are good at character development, so hopefully we get that for Captain Marvel, because I feel like that's what's missing in that character. It's just that connection with the audience to make us feel and really care for her. I do feel like the other characters were more developed in this movie than Captain Marvel was. I think part of what it suffers is let's compare it to Black Panther. We got an introduction to Black Panther or even Spider-Man. We got an introduction to both of them, those characters, in Civil War. So you kind of had a small understanding of them, which was expounded upon in their respective solo movies. With like Nick Fury in Captain Marvel's movie, we understand who he is now. So seeing him in the past, we still had a connection with him, and we understood his character. And not to say you can't develop a character in a single movie. Of course, a lot of the other characters had only their first movie for us to gain that connection. But this movie was trying to do a lot of things, and I feel like that's where it kind of fell short. Because it was trying to do so much, we didn't have that build up for Brie Larson's character there. I guess that's really my only biggest problem with the movie. Everything else is pretty decent. So I'm thinking as I'm talking about this now, I probably would put this above the Ant-Man movies. We'll see by the time we record the actual podcast where I stand after I had some time to think about everything and mull over the movie. But yeah, I think that's its only flaw, really. The biggest flaw, I would say, is kind of the character development with Captain Marvel and, making us really feel for her. I might talk about a little bit of spoilers at this point. So if you haven't seen the movie, I would say cut out here and come back to the review after you've seen the movie. Because I think that's all I can say without really spoiling anything. So we'll do that. So from this point on, there's spoilers for Captain Marvel. If you haven't seen it, pause, come back after you've seen the movie and see what I had to say about it, see how it lines up with your thoughts on it. So right from the beginning of the movie, we do get to see a lot with Captain Marvel's character. She's on the Kree homeworld. You see her interact with Jude Law's character, Yon-Rogg, Yon-Rogg? Yeah. So we get to see her interact with them, and right from the gate, I felt like, wow, okay, there is a lot of personality there. I thought that was excellent in the character building, but there were some predictable elements to this movie, and I think it's because we all already knew that the Kree had brainwashed her, and we're going through this whole movie trying to, wanting her to finally figure that out. So I think that kind of aspect didn't really work because the whole audience knows that she's brainwashed and that they're the ones that did something wrong, and we want her to hurry up and find out so we can move on with it. That might only be a problem for people who know backstory, now that I think of it, because if you don't know the backstory, then you don't know that she was brainwashed by the Kree. So that's that might just be a problem for us comic book fans that know some of the backstory of Captain Marvel, now that I think about it. Other than that, I think the story, it's really great. I like seeing the Kree homeworld. She goes on mission after that. They really kind of build, without telling you directly, they really kind of build this kind of personality with Captain Marvel. She's brash. She jumps into action without really thinking. You can see that with interaction between her and Jude Law's character. Because, they're on this mission and things are going a little bit wrong, and she says, hey, I can just jump in and I'll do it myself, and Jude Law has to tell her not to because, he's her superior at that point, and that's the only reason she doesn't. And you can see later on in the movie, she takes some actions that, like, she doesn't have control of her powers, really, and I feel like it should scare her more, but it doesn't, and that's kind of her personality, which I think, I don't read a lot of her comics, but I think that does match up with her in the comics because she's kind of a strong-willed but big-headed person. So, she just kind of jumps into things. I like that aspect because those type of flaws actually, it helps with a character that is as powerful as Captain Marvel is and bringing her a bit down to earth. So she's not just, I can do whatever and I'm the perfect person personality-wise. Because as we know, that doesn't work well in movies. So I did like that aspect. Meeting Nick Fury and everyone else when she makes it to Earth was excellent. There were some really funny scenes between her and Nick Fury. But then again, there was some scenes of dialogue that kind of dragged on. But I did like that relationship. And the whole movie's kind of that, not the whole movie, but most of the movie is kind of that buddy cop relationship between her and Nick Fury. And you can see it. And Samuel L. Jackson, excellent. I think he brought it in his role, and it actually absolutely worked. I didn't have any flaws with his character. So we had that, and it moves at a clip. There were some surprising elements, like basically in this movie, the Skrull are not the bad guys. And we all went in expecting the Skrull to be the bad guys. I did like that they did that. And even by the end of the movie, I'm like, okay, but the Skrull are going to turn on them, right? And they don't. And so that just makes a big difference. I think that was excellent writing in changing that aspect of the movie, just against our expectations, but not in a bad way. Like, it was kind of unexpected but pleasing. I would say that. But as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, as the movie went on, she starts to get full control of her powers. And I don't know, like, as it goes on, she starts to lose some of her personality. Like, she kind of reaches like a climax point of that when she meets up with her friend in the movie. And you have a really emotional scene between her and her friend, because she had been missing for 6 years by then. And that's excellent. And you really, at that point, that's where you get to feel the humanization of the character. But then it goes on and it loses it. And I feel like everyone surrounding Captain Marvel, they have that. You can see it with Fury and I can't remember the character's name, but Carol's best friend. You can see that. And they have human traits, and I actually think you start to care about those characters. But with Carol Danvers, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like, I don't know what was with the writing with it. But I don't know. You just don't feel that attachment. I've said it like 5 times. And I think that's just my biggest down point. I don't know what to say. This is my biggest gripe with the movie is that. But there are a lot of nods, a lot of 90s nods. If you have 90s nostalgia, it's excellent for that. The music, there are a lot of music, 90s soundtracks that were played, which I think worked really well in the movie. Yeah, I think that's about it. I need a little bit of time to kind of put some more things together, but I guess that's my overall thoughts of the movie. I did like how it ended. It made sense how it ended. You know, everything did work together there, so the ending wasn't flawed or anything like that. I don't feel. Yeah. So overall, I thought it was a good movie, but I'm finding it's just this one particular thing that's dragging it down for me. So I'll have to see over the weekend how I felt. We'll talk about it on the podcast. Make sure you guys check that out. Check out the podcast and see also what my siblings thought about it. And, of course, we'll discuss that along with the news for the week. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you later. Peace out.